Okay, let's dive in. Imagine this, right? You know exactly how your coffee machine works, every button, where the filter goes.
Uh-huh.
Yet somehow the morning routine just breaks down. We saw this with a gentleman, Mr. H. He absolutely knew how to make coffee, no confusion there.
Right.
But the connection, the link between taking his pills and actually starting the machine, it just kept vanishing.
Yeah.
He'd sit down, totally convinced he'd already done it. Or he'd flick the pot on, then immediately off again, thinking, he was repeating himself.
And that's such a key point. It looks like memory failure,
Yeah.
like forgetting. But often it's the chain of behaviors itself that's breaking, the
The
sequence.
chain breaking, I like that. It's not the skill, it's the sequence.
Exactly. These complex routines, they need step A, then step B, then
Yeah.
step C reliably. When things like cognitive fog interfere, even slightly,
Yeah.
those links get fragile.
And the whole system just stalls out.
It does. And that stall leads straight to frustration, maybe feeling embarrassed, and then often withdrawal. They just stop trying.
Which is absolutely heartbreaking. And that's why today we're doing a deep dive into something that sounds maybe simple, but is incredibly powerful. Behavior chaining.
It comes straight from applied behavior analysis.
ABA.
Right, ABA. And this technique, it's like a shortcut, isn't it? To help rebuild that independence, that flow. Our mission today is really to show you how to lean less on fragile memory.
Which is unreliable, especially under stress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And lean more on a really precise, supportive structure in the environment.
Yeah. And, when people hear ABA, they often think maybe interventions for kids.
Sometimes, yeah.
But the real power is its focus on what you can actually see, the actions, the environmental triggers.
Yeah.
When internal stuff like memory or, planning gets shaky, focusing on the behavior structure itself is often the cuttingest and, frankly, the most effective way forward.
Okay, so let's get practical. We look at a big task, right? Making dinner, having a shower, the coffee routine.
Yeah.
It's never just one thing.
Never. It's a whole cascade of smaller actions, all linked. So step one for fixing a broken routine is you absolutely have to do what's called task analysis.
Yes. Essential first step. You have to map out every single little piece in the right order.
And this is where I think people can get it wrong. They might list like 3 big steps.
Exactly. They'll say 1, add water, 2, add grounds, 3, press start. But that's not nearly detailed enough. Task analysis requires almost like forensic observation.
Wow. Okay. So how granular are we talking? Is it down to the level of like reach for the mug handle?
Pretty much. You break it down to the smallest possible observable action that the person can reliably do. If scoop grounds and place filter turns out to be too much, then maybe it needs to be 1, open the coffee container, 2, pick up the scoop, 3, dip scoop into grounds. You find the level that works, because when that cognitive fog hits...
It's those tiny links that vanish.
Precisely. So behavior chaining takes that big, scary routine and rebuilds it link by tiny link using an external map.
I think that's the key takeaway for you listening. We are not trying to magically fix someone's memory here.
No, definitely not.
We're building the environment to basically remember for them.
Absolutely. So once we have that super detailed task analysis, that list of steps...
Got it.
Then there are 2 main ways we can link those steps back together into a working chain.
Okay. The first one sounds, well, pretty logical. It's forward chaining. This is how most of us learn things, right? Like tying shoelaces. You teach step 1, then step 2, then step 3, building from the start.
Yep. It works really well for learning brand new skills. But there's a catch when you're applying it to someone who's already feeling anxious or struggling with recall.
What's the catch?
The reward. The feeling of success. It's delayed way at the end. They might have to get through, say, 10, maybe 15 steps perfectly before they get that payoff.
Okay, I see. That delay could be really discouraging.
It can be. If they stumble on step 7, they don't get the coffee, they don't feel clean after the shower.
Yeah.
And it just reinforces that awful feeling of, see, I can't do this.
Okay, so that brings us to the other method, backward chaining. You called it the secret weapon.
It kind of is. Now, it does mean, initially, the caregiver might do a bit more setup work.
Right, that's what I was wondering. Why put more work on the caregiver just to let the senior do the very last bit?
It seems counterintuitive, maybe.
Yeah.
But we prioritize backward chaining because the payoff, the psychological, and honestly, neurological benefit is immediate and huge.
So.
The caregiver does all the steps except the final one. They set the stage perfectly for success. The senior just comes in and does that last little bit.
And boom, they finish it.
They finish it.
Yeah.
And they immediately get that natural reward, The smell of the coffee, the feeling of being dressed, whatever it is.
That I did it moment. You mentioned that.
Exactly. That success, right there at the end, it cuts through the anxiety of trying to remember all the previous steps. It swaps that dread for, hey, I can do this. I'm competent.
So it's like an instant confidence booster.
It's instant positive reinforcement. It lights up the brain's reward pathways, making the whole sequence spick much faster. And this isn't just, a nice idea. Research backs this up. Yeah, folks like Lovey and St. Peter, they've shown how this kind of systematic instruction using task analysis and chaining directly builds that feeling of self-efficacy, of being able to manage daily life again. You start with the win.
You start with the win. I love that. Okay, let's circle back to Mr. H and his coffee problem. The breakdown was early on, right? Between pills and setup.
Yep. But the big reward was that finished cup of coffee.
So his team used backward chaining. They figured out his routine was about, say, 10 steps.
Right. So they focused on the end. The caregiver would do steps 1 through maybe 6 or 7, getting everything perfectly ready.
Setting the stage. And Mr. H took over for the last few steps. What was his first step in this new chain?
His first step, let's call it step 1, senior, was simply scoop the coffee grounds and put the filter in the machine. Yeah. Everything else was ready to go, water in, pot in place.
Okay, manageable, defined.
Exactly. Then, once he mastered that consistently, maybe the next day or two, the caregiver stepped back 1 more step.
So Mr. H then had to do the last 2 steps. What was next?
Maybe the next step he took over was step 3 in the original sequence, which was just pressing the on button. Still very close to the finish line.
And then the final ultimate success step.
Step 4. Pouring the brewed coffee into his mug. The caregiver made sure the pot was full and hot right there. Mr. H just performed that final action.
And you get that immediate sensory hit, the smell, the warmth, the taste.
That's the powerful reinforcement right there. It locks in the steps he just did moments before.
And what happened with Mr. H? Did it work?
It was actually pretty amazing. His anxiety around the coffee routine dropped noticeably fast. And those skipped actions, turning the pot off right away, they stopped. Within about 2 weeks, they just stopped. The simple success of pouring the coffee seemed to solidify the whole sequence before it.
Wow, so the external structure of the chain literally took over the job from his fragile memory.
Exactly. Without making him feel like he had to try harder or focus more.
It's practical, and it preserves dignity. That's huge.
It really is. The burden shifts from the person's internal memory to the external environment.
Okay, so for anyone listening, maybe a caregiver or family member wanting to try this, let's pivot to the real practical stuff. How do you actually create an effective chain?
Right. It really comes down to clarity.
Yeah.
Especially visual clarity and physical supports.
So first rule.
Hyperspecificity.
Yeah.
Absolutely non-negotiable. You can't just write wash up. That's way too vague.
What would be better?
Simple, observable actions like turn on warm water, pick up soap dispenser, pump soap onto hands. Crystal clear.
Got it. And you mentioned visuals.
Yes. Crucial. Yeah. Use large, clear pictures or even simple line drawings for each specific step. Those visuals become the anchors, the external memory cues.
Okay, pictures for each step. What else?
Pair those pictures with something physical, like a laminated checklist.
Laminated? Why laminated?
So they can physically check off each step with a dry erase marker. That action, making that mark, it strongly reinforces, okay, that step is done. It fights that awful loop of, did I already do this?
Makes sense. That physical act of checking it off.
And one more crucial thing. Only focus on one chain at a time. Don't try to fix the coffee routine and the showering routine simultaneously.
Too much overload.
Way too much.
No.
Master one, then move to the next if needed.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the goal isn't for the caregiver to be doing most of the steps forever, right?
No.
How do you fade the assistance? How do you know when to step back?
Good question. You need clear criteria. You're looking for the person to perform that final step, the one they are currently responsible for, independently and correctly, without any prompts from you.
Okay.
Say 3 to 5 times in a row, consistently.
3 to 5 times. Got it, once they hit that.
Then you fade your assistance one step earlier in the chain.
Right. So if Mr. H was pouring the coffee perfectly 5 days straight,
the caregiver would stop setting up that final pour. Now Mr. H has to do the last 2 steps on his own. Maybe press out and pour the coffee.
I see. So the caregiver's role slowly backs down the chain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You always ensure they finish with success, but you gradually increase their responsibility until, ideally, the visual guide, the pictures or checklist is the only prompt they need.
You're teaching the brain to follow the environmental cues, not struggle with internal recall.
That's the core idea. Let the environment do the heavy lifting.
But, life happens. What if they do skip a step, even with the visual guide? Say they miss step 3 and jump straight to step 5. How should a caregiver respond then, without causing upset?
This is really important. The absolute #1 rule is stay calm. Avoid any sign of frustration or anxiety yourself.
Why is that so critical?
Because if you show stress, that's what they'll learn to associate with the task. Fear of upsetting you. The environment, the visual guide, that's the teacher, not your emotions.
Okay, so stay neutral. What do you do?
You simply calmly guide them back. Gently point to the visual cue for the missed step, step 3 in your example. Say something neutral like, oops, let's look at this step first, or how about this one next?
Just gently redirecting back to the sequence.
Exactly. Now, if skipping that same step becomes a recurring pattern, like it happens day after day, that's feedback. It probably means that step, or maybe the one before it, wasn't simple enough in your task analysis. You might need to go back and break it down even further.
So the errors tell you where the chain needs refinement.
Precisely. The environment is providing the feedback.
This is really powerful stuff. The big takeaway seems to be that we can foster independence even with cognitive changes, not by trying to wage war on memory loss itself.
Right, which is often a losing battle.
But by skillfully, systematically shaping the person's world, their environment, to support them.
One link at a time, one routine at a time, one success building on another.
Yeah. It really reframes the challenge, doesn't it? From focusing on deficits to focusing on building effective supports.
It empowers both the person and the caregiver, giving you concrete tools from behavioral science to create reliable success.
Okay, so as a final thought for you, our listener, something to mull over.
Right.
We want to challenge you to try just the very first stage of this technique in your own life. Pick a routine you do every day, something complex-ish. Maybe it's packing your work bag, maybe unloading the dishwasher, making a specific recipe.
Something with multiple steps.
Exactly. And actually do the detailed task analysis. Grab a pen and paper and write down every single tiny movement involved in completing that task, from start to finish.
Really get granular. Notice the difference between just thinking pack lunch versus noting down open fridge, locate cheese slices, reach for cheese packet, grass packet, close fridge. All those micro actions.
That act of detailed observation, really seeing the chain, that's the essential first step. It helps you reframe how routines work, and it's the foundation for understanding how to potentially fix them when they break down for someone else.
Understanding the chain is the key to mending the breaks.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for diving deep with us today on this. Really fascinating.
My pleasure. It's important work.
We'll talk soon.